Whether it's bad planning, bad luck, bad timing, or bad inventions, well-intentioned bad decisions have plagued history for thousands of years. Welcome to Historic Hindsight. Hello and welcome to another episode of Historic Hindsight. I'm John, that's Tom, and today we're going to start our journey to find the worst person in the world.
That's right, Johnny. Our journey to the worst person in the world, which has been plagued with nothing but technical difficulties, because this is the second time we recorded this one. We recorded the serial killer journey twice, so...
Yeah, it's really been the worst podcast recording experience in the world so far, instead of finding the worst person. But hopefully we'll get there.
Hopefully the audio will be better. Hopefully the video will be better. We're now wearing earbuds, so that way we don't get echoes and that kind of stuff.
Hopefully.
So hopefully that helps. And now that we're recording it individually, hopefully we don't have crap quality that comes through. So we'll see. But if you didn't join us for our serial killer episode, there'll be a link in the description, and the thingy will come up at the end of YouTube if you're watching the YouTubes. But go watch that. But the rules are pretty simple. It's a head-to-head challenge. It is a bracket system. We look at the total number of killed. We look at the mode and means in which they killed them, and their social impact. And this is purely based on mine and Johnny's own interpretations of said facts or figures.
And it's important to know
guidelines.
that people aren't getting a score for each one of those, because then it'd just be top score. It's going to be a comparison, head-to-head comparison for each
for each individual rounds. It'll be
Yep.
based on mine and Johnny's own personal preference. So don't hate us, and I'm sure there's a ton of people that we left off the list. Oh, by the way, we also made sure that there's nobody currently living in this bracket, so as to not become political with this, or as best we can not become.
Yeah,
political
well,
with
and
it.
this is a podcast about history, so we're going back into history to find out. So our first matchup here, though, we have
our first matchup. It's against the Hitlers, Johnny. We've got Adolf Hitler, who obviously would have never, we would have not been able to do a world's worst person without him on the list.
Absolutely.
And America's Hitler, Woodrow Wilson.
Yeah, which if you want to know why he's America's Hitler, I'm sure we'll get the cliff notes, but we have an episode all about it.
Episode on that. So I like to start off each of these people with a little bit of a biography about them before we get into deciding who's the worst one. So Adolf Hitler, if you're living underneath a rock, well, he's responsible for Nazis. And according to the internets, Nazis are bad people.
I mean, according to reality, also, I think most people would argue.
Yes, yeah, all right, look. Very much Nazis are bad people. Historic Hindsight is not afraid to say Nazis are bad.
Apolitical or not, Nazis are bad.
We denounce Nazis.
Yeah.
No, like the Nazis. His policies are responsible for the death of over 6 million Jews directly because of the whole, Holocaust thing.
Yeah,
and,
a little bit.
We must exterminate the Jews. He's also responsible for 19.3 million total civilian deaths. That includes prisoners of war and other people he didn't like. Plus the 6 million
everybody
Jews.
Who's not going to help provide, the genes for a master race. If you have some sort of disability or, you're something like that, you're gonna go to a camp and then
if you're gay, he didn't like that. If you were a gypsy, definitely didn't like that. You're Catholic, wasn't a fan. If you had a disability, a cleft lip, he didn't like that.
Out of the gene pool.
Even though he had a cliff. Whatever. We don't care about that. And if you also include the fact that he started World War II, so all of the European World War II deaths are upon him, 28.7 million additional deaths.
Okay, so which loosely that's the pretty.
Well, he did start.
He started.
He did start it.
Yeah.
He started it. So yeah. Although I guess you can't really count all the Finnish War death. But anyway, that's another story. Somehow, Hitler was able to rise to power after his failed 1923 military coup, where he attempted to take over the government by force, and was shot, and then imprisoned for 5 years as a traitor, where he wrote a book inside essentially a hotel room.
So, do you think that the person who shot him, assuming they survived everything,
yeah.
Do you think they looked back and just hated themselves for how poor of a shot they were?
Yeah, maybe.
Imagine if he would have shot just a little differently and killed him.
maybe any of the members of the Weimar Republic might have been like, maybe we should treat treason as a little bit more of a thing than just a slap on the wrist.
Maybe.
I mean, something. He would successfully overthrow the Weimar Republic when he took over with the Nazi Party, and he did the world a favor though by claiming that he was doing the world a favor by using his whole eugenics thing. So everything that he was doing up to this, when he became a Nazi, with this whole Holocaust, with the whole like purity of race, the intention was that. It was for good cause. Like, we're making humanity better by weeding out the bad things in our genes.
Yeah, it's kind of an the ends justify the means type argument and mentality that we're, in the end, after all of this horrible stuff that we just have to do, because, I mean, what else are you supposed to do with these people? After all that, the world's going to be a better place.
Yes, yeah,
a whiter
exactly.
place, some might say.
Well... By his definition, yeah, it would be a little bit whiter. Although he does lose some points, Johnny, because if he was such this, as a truly evil person, he would have won his people over completely, right? So everybody would have blindly followed him, and he wouldn't have had any people who were against him, right? So he wouldn't have had the multiple death attempts that happened on him by members of the government that were high up there. Like, he survived 2 bombing attacks.
Yeah,
so,
I mean, wasn't part of his, part of his thing was he was getting rid of the people who didn't like him too, though. So eventually,
he would have
gotten to the point where there was nobody who, disagreed with him out loud.
That's kind of how dictators work, right?
Yeah, a little bit.
But he also loses points because the only person he ever killed directly, like by his own hands that we know officially in history, was himself. So Hitler killed the worst person in the world. So he
ridded the world of Hitler. Yeah. If not for Hitler, we would still have Hitler. I mean, that'd be terrible. Can you imagine? So yeah, so he did some good things.
Obviously, there's a lot more that Hitler did that was worse, but we'll get into that. Spoiler alert, he's probably going to move on, so we'll get onto that later. And if you everybody knows Hitler. Woodrow Wilson, on the other hand, we're not all familiar with why Woodrow Wilson, or why I like to call him America's Hitler. Well, we start off by the fact that one of his first acts as president was that he wanted to show a movie in the White House, Johnny. Yeah. And what movie did he choose?
Well, wait, that's kind of cool, though, because movies, he's early 1900s,
Yeah, so, movies were a brand new thing.
Yeah, so that's cool. He's bringing it into the White House, new technology. Yeah. That's great. Yeah.
He's not showing but he's not showing like the fancy motion picture movies where like you got the guy on the train that's like hitting the rail ties. He's not showing. He's showing Birth of a Nation, which is
okay. So about the founding.
No, it's about KKK propaganda and how the whole South wasn't really all about slavery and fighting slavery. We're fighting the evil black men that were going to take over the South if we didn't keep them in slavery.
Right.
That's the movie he chose to play in the White House. So you can't look at him and go, well, it's a product of his time. No, the guy was flat out racist. Even by 1900 standards, he was a blatant racist.
Yeah.
He liked to extend that racism because one of the great things about the federal government at this time is that we actually, in the early 1900s, believe it or not, we had unsegregated workforce in the federal government. So if you worked for the post office, you had black people working right along white people.
So the early 1900s were more progressive than the 50s or 60s.
Well, in the federal, yes.
Yeah.
But that would change because Woodrow Wilson would go about segregating the federal workforce.
I imagine it was a separate but equal situation, though.
Well, if by equal you mean getting a cage put around you if you couldn't get a different workspace.
I don't think that's what I meant by equal.
Woodrow Wilson literally put cages around minorities that couldn't be segregated by other means in the workforce.
So imagine a mobile jail unit going over a cubicle.
Yes, basically. Imagine instead of walking into the post office and seeing the man behind the desk, you walk in the post office and see a man behind a cage.
Like that's what you see when you go into a gas station in the bad part of the city.
Yeah, but for different reasons. That's a little bit of a different reasons. Yeah. Yes. He is also responsible for the second coming of the KKK, because believe it or not, there was a first coming that Grant got rid of by making them a terrorist organization and systematically hunting them down. No, the whole showing birth of a nation and all that stuff.
Yeah. That was close. I thought you were going to say he was responsible for the second coming of Christ. I thought that would have been great.
That would have been great, but no, just the second coming of the KKK, which led to an ass ton of lynchings.
Oh, you don't say.
At the end of World War I and into 1918 and 1919. So, whoops.
Yeah, you mean enabling an inherently racist, violent organization gives them, permission and the way they see it anyway to go and do things like, I don't know.
Yeah, and a lot of that started. A lot of that lynching also started with he created several spy agencies that claimed that the black people were anti-American and weren't all happy that we were in war. So that's partially where the lynchings came from and started from.
They're just anti-American, and were they? I'm sure.
No.
It was just they're
saying
that.
To be fair, at least half the population of the United States was very much anti-war. We did not want to get involved in World War One.
Yeah.
In fact, he ran his whole second term on, I will keep us out of the war and I will not get us into World War One.
Yeah,
and then immediately after he got elected, he got us into World War One. So all the American deaths in World War One, his fault.
Yeah. So most wars people are generally against. There are the wars where people feel like, okay, we have to do this, but you're always going to find a pretty large percentage of the people not wanting to go to war.
Yeah, there was a large percentage that did not want to go into World War One. He's also responsible for pretty much every subsequent American soldier death since that point, because he instills what's called Wilsonianism, which is making the world safe for American democracy.
No. You're not allowed to take your name and put "ism" at the end of it. Like that's what dictators do. That's
that's
stuff.
what he did, Johnny. Wilsonianism.
You can't
making the world safe for American democracy, in which he would go into these other countries that might become communist and make them safe for democracy by starting a war to try to get rid of the communists. So
now there's
Korean
a lot of
War,
countries. Tommy,
his fault.
How is he going to decide which ones to bring democracy to and protect our democracy with?
Well, if they aren't Christian and they aren't white and they're poor,
good.
We're going to war with them.
Great. Okay.
To protect them, Johnny. But to protect them.
And to bring them democracy and freedom, no doubt.
Yes. Yeah. So Korea, his fault. Yeah. Vietnam, his fault. The Iraq and Afghanistan war, believe it or not, his fault. So Benghazi, not Clinton. But him.
He took away American isolation.
Isolation. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. He very much got rid of the whole isolation ideology.
Made us the policemen of the world.
He did,
which has been nothing but good for everybody.
He also, Johnny, he had a plague, or pandemic during his time in presidency too, the 1918 flu pandemic, which he also handled oh so well by throwing ticker tape parades for all the soldiers returning home.
Well, I mean, it's
whoops.
You can't let the morale drop in the country. You have to let hundreds of thousands of people drop instead.
Exactly. And
makes sense.
Just to add salt into the wound, now he's not responsible for federal income tax. He's not responsible for that. That was passed right before his administration. But he took it to the next step, because prior to his administration, I believe it was around 47 to 48% of all the federal incomes that were coming in was from excise tax. So basically, if you ship in, manufactured goods, we're going to tax it. Great. I mean, that spurs on American industry, right? Yeah, the minute he gets into office, he slashes that all the way down to, I believe it was like 12 or 13%.
Ooh.
And makes income tax a priority for
to make up for
federal
that
monies. Yeah. Yeah. And it wasn't the rich income tax either. Oops.
So I don't like him very much.
Yeah, we don't like him.
But that being said,
he's not Hitler.
He's not Hitler.
So we don't even have to go into any details.
I mean, the direct deaths, he wins.
Yes.
The Hitler wins. The social impact.
He wins.
People literally compare anybody bad to Hitler.
So he's got to win that.
He's got
Hitler moves on.
Yeah. And there it is.
And Hitler's moving on. Our next round is our serial killer versus, well, kind of a serial killer in his own right. We've got the winner, Theodore Bundy, a.k.a. a hottie, versus Leopold II, who is a Belgian who decided that the Congo was a really cool place to invest in. So we'll start with Theodore Bundy. If you missed our serial killer episode, you'll get a better bio of that from there.
He shouldn't even be here if you missed it. He shouldn't be here.
Well, yeah.
Tommy was a coward.
I abstained courteously, Johnny, on my vote, and your wife switched her vote, so...
Yeah, both cowards. My wife won. They picked him over a serial pedophile.
Yeah, they did. I didn't, though.
You coward. All right, but anyway, Ted Bundy, he was an arsonist.
He's an American serial killer, rapist, arsonist, all that fun stuff. Well, no, not an arsonist. He wasn't.
He wasn't even one of the... God. What's he doing?
He did have 30. He had 30 confessed killings. Total was unknown. He ran from 1974 to 1978 in his killing sprees. He's here because he escaped jail twice, Johnny, and was a hottie. Come on. In both times he escaped jail, by the way, he didn't like, oh, I got to get out of jail free card, I'm going to stop. No, he just kept killing.
Sorry, if people are willing to be with you or get with you or be abducted by you after finding out the things that you do because they're so attracted to you, you can't be the world's worst human.
So I think we know where Johnny's vote's going on in this.
Anyway.
In this head-to-head, he was sentenced to death via electrocution twice. Once for killing a bunch of college co-eds, and once for raping and killing a 14-year-old girl. So. Deservedly a piece of shit that deserved to die, and he was put to death in 1989, and the world lost nothing from him.
And nothing of value was lost.
And if you are ever curious as to more details to him than just that, there are literally like 5 movies about him on Netflix.
He's like the Hitler of serial killers.
If
you haven't heard of him, like you've been living under a rock.
And that's Johnny. That's why he's here, is because you can't, like, every time somebody talks about serial killer, Ted Bundy's name.
I'm sorry, are we finding the most famous bad person or the worst one, Tommy?
Well, Johnny, this is where we get to correct our wives' mistakes.
All right.
By not letting it move on beyond this round. But he's up against Leopold II, who was the second king of the Belgians from 1865 to 1909, and he would become the absolute ruler of the Congo Free State from 1885 to 1908. The Congo Free State name is hilarious because they're ruled by Belgium, so I'm not entirely sure how you can consider them being a free state.
Oh, no, Tommy, see, you misunderstood. It's not that that state is free, it's that the Belgians who own it are free to do what they want within the state. They're advertising to the Belgians that, hey, it's a free state, do what you want.
Yeah, pretty much. Rules do not apply. His goal in the Congo was to improve the lives of the native inhabitants. And by improve them, I mean work them to death.
That's less nice.
Literally. He got allowed to be the ruler of the Congo Free State because when the European powers were colonializing Africa, basically they made bids as to which is funny in and of itself. Yeah.
Good God. Get over yourself, Europe. Like they're like, hey, we're gonna go ahead and just conquer everywhere. There's already people there. It doesn't matter. We'll just divvy it up, make them slaves, and do what we want.
Yeah, pretty much. And they kind of divvy it up just like that. And they're like, well, who gets this one? Who gets this one? And as Leopold's begging for it, he goes, well, I want to improve their lives. Give them infrastructure and make them. We're gonna civilize them, Johnny.
That's right.
And so the Europeans decide that he's the right person for this job for the Congos who had no vote. And by civilize them, what I really mean is that he's going to extract a fortune from them by stealing their ivory and rubber and exploiting their labor.
Yeah.
And when I say exploiting their labor, I mean men, women, and children's labor who wouldn't work fast enough would get their fucking arms cut off because...
Yeah. Okay, well, to be fair, I mean, you bring children in, like, that's a weird thing at the time. Like, back in the day, children got a job when they were 5, 6 years old. And, if they happened to live in the Congo and needed to go into a mine or hunting or something awful like that for their job, that's part of where they're from. That's,
Failure to meet his quotas would result in death, which his quotas being met was so much easier when they have one arm instead of 2 to work with.
Yeah, well, I mean, and that's such a funny a way of thinking about things too, because it's like companies who are going out of are struggling or whatever, and they fire everybody, and then they can't produce what they needed to produce. They're like, why can't we do this anymore? It's like, oh, 'cause you fired everybody.
Because you
That's right.
fired everybody, or by fire in this case, I mean,
Yeah, I mean, this case it was
kill.
lost limbs or death.
Now, if you were a Belgian settler or a white person in the
Yeah.
Congo, you could get out of your quotas by giving Leopold black people arms. So I'm sure no
Well,
innocent,
not
non-working
just
black person had his
no,
arm
no,
cut off.
no. I mean, it was like for arms of black people who also weren't delivering on their quota, right? Like you became a
Well,
hitman,
yes,
right? And
yeah.
nobody exploited that at all.
No, I'm sure not.
No.
Nope. It is estimated that he killed or was responsible for the deaths of 1 to 15 million natives, around
Ooh.
10 million being the actual conservative. Like, we think it's probably around this number.
Yeah,
But it's a little hard to tell for sure because we don't have, like, there wasn't the census going around at this time. And, Africa does have wild animals that tend to eat people, and, malaria is a thing. But
I think hippos kill like 3 to 5 people a year, and they're the most dangerous animals.
So he probably killed 9. He probably killed 9 million and 900,000, 998, right?
Yeah.
Something like that. And a couple of hippos.
But yeah,
got the other ones.
So the kind of agreed upon numbers towards the higher end of the estimates. Usually with these estimates, especially with
There's
that
usually
big,
towards the lower end.
but it could have been anywhere between like 3 and 6 or something. But yeah, so probably at least 10 million is what we'll give him. And Ted Bundy killed 30.
30 directly, and by kill I mean he would rape, kill, rape again. So
right.
I mean, he was a disgusting human being. But.
Oh yeah. How many of his friends did he have go and cut the arms off and rape and kill and murder other people?
Yeah.
Was it
Leopold goes on. I mean, it's not. Yeah, it's Leopold goes on.
Yeah,
that's why we did a separate serial killer, because we knew the serial killer was never going to get out of the first round.
Yeah, but we felt they needed to be at least given some representation, since most of these are conquerors or dictators or world leaders of some sort.
Now our third. Oh, now you know what? We totally forgot this at the beginning. We're doing the Western versus the Eastern world's bad guy, and this episode's on the Western people.
That's right.
So if you're confused why everybody's white so far, that's why.
Yeah. Well, also.
Well, yeah.
I mean, white people are kind of garbage.
As you listen to two white people talk to you about how white people are garbage.
Yeah. Given this opportunity because of all the garbage white people that have blessed us with this privilege.
Speaking of garbage white people, our next round is Christopher Columbus, Johnny's personal favorite.
Oh, God. He's going to go deep.
He's going to go deep. Versus Alexander the Great, who is obviously not going deep if we just said Christopher Columbus.
But he's another good one, though.
Alexander the Great is a pretty good one.
It's a big first-round matchup, I think.
This is a good first round, yeah. Our bracketing might have been a little bit off here, but oh well.
Well, it wasn't. We didn't seed anything. It was literally just names thrown on paper, broken into
pretty
East
much.
and West.
Well, first off, Christopher Columbus, he discovered the New World. We just celebrated...
Right? Because in 1492, Columbus sailed the ocean blue and landed in Plymouth, and then signed the Declaration of Independence, right?
It's kind of how the American history
I mean, that's how I remember it from my American history education, K through 12, public school.
Well, you're not all that far off there, Johnny. By the New World, I mean the Caribbean and the Bahamas, and by discover it, I mean he was the first white man to get there, but not he's the first white man to get the Caribbean. He's not the first white man to get to the New World.
So he landed in the U.S. Virgin Islands, kind
of. Sure.
Close.
And then he would murder pretty much everybody that he came across.
Everybody. Enslave, murder, rape.
Yeah,
cut off arms and stuff.
Yes,
all the good stuff.
It's not that he brought white man disease with him and that's what killed the natives. No. He.
This wasn't innocent settlers in America trying to share blankets and stuff and be nice to the natives, and then all of a sudden they die and they think, oh well, God blessed us with their death, so I guess all this land's mine too.
This is mine too.
This is targeted. I'm gonna kill you because I don't like you or think you're a
And
person,
by
and I need your resources.
and by targeted, I mean he had a habit of kidnapping native children and giving them to his crew members to rape. So you can thank him for the child sex slave trade that's going on today. He and his crew would publicly cut off body parts of captives to shock other natives. Specifically, they like to lob off your ear. So if you
Now,
weren't,
see, that's smarter than Leopold's, man. You can work without an ear.
yeah, that's true. That's true. And it does get your point across. Like, you're not doing what I
Yep.
want. Off with an ear.
Yeah.
Look what I'll do to you.
Oh, and you
That's
remember how
way
much
more
that hurt?
convenient.
You have another one.
He forced natives to collect gold for him on all the Spanish territories. And by Spanish territories, I mean wherever he landed and planted a flag.
Which, I mean, that's how territories work, Tom. I'm not sure if you've read the history books, but you're European. You go somewhere, you put a flag in the ground, you say, "This land is mine. There's nobody here." Excuse me.
Do you have a flag? Much like Leopold, after him, if you didn't meet your quota, well, you're not going to be
Sorry.
around much longer to worry about it.
Yeah. Well, and he would go to the workers' families too. Instead
Yeah,
of cutting off the workers' team, it's like, "Oh, you didn't meet your quota. Okay, let me see your 3-year-old child. They don't get a hand now for the rest
or
of their life." Well,
this
which is going to
3-year-old
be
child
like
gets
5 more
sent
years
to my
until
men.
they're given to somebody to.
Other things.
Mm-hmm.
In Hispaniola, he would capture 1,500 natives, send 500 of them back to Spain, where over 200 would die on the voyage because they were treated oh so well.
Yeah.
This wasn't the Caribbean cruise line that we have today. Although I think they have a habit of killing people too by wrecking into things.
It's
then
probably
sinking
a
the boat.
lower number.
Did that? Maybe.
I don't think they'd be in business if they had that same percentage of people dying
The same
every
percentage,
trip.
yeah, probably not.
Or it'd be a
50,000
different business, I guess.
Yeah, things were so bad and there's a distinction in the Caribbean in history between pre-Columbus and post-Columbus. So when you're one man that has that level of a distinction, you know the social impact here. In post-Columbus era, his treatment of the natives was so bad that 50,000 of them decided that they would commit suicide rather than comply with his cruelty. They all decided literally jumping off a cliff, which is what they did, was better than finding gold for this man who's going to lob off your ear no matter what you do.
Well, I
Or
mean,
rape
yeah, I guess their alternative is die or work in
Die
hellish
slower.
conditions, get abused, get maimed probably, and then die.
Yep.
So,
Which
not
one are
too
you gonna
hard a
take?
choice, really, I suppose. Hard to do, no doubt, but not hard a choice.
56 years after he first landed on Hispaniola, only 500 of the original 300,000 natives survived. So that
successful
meets
genocide.
the criteria of genocide. Oh yeah, that definitely meets the criteria of genocide.
Like he won the genocide game.
But if that wasn't enough to convince you that he committed genocide, Haiti and the Dominican Republic's population dropped from 3 million to only 100,000 from 1493 to 1504. So in the first
11 years.
11 years of him landing there, he dropped the population from 3 million down to 100,000.
Holy cow. That's
And that wasn't from hugs and kisses.
what three
Although,
like
speaking of hugs
300,000 a
and
year or something like that. That's insane.
speaking of hugs and kisses,
30,000? I don't know.
history books a lot of times do give him credit for the spread of syphilis in Europe. So
On account of the raping and the pillaging and then the bringing it back and then doing the more of that.
consensual sex, Johnny.
Right? Yeah.
I'm winking if you can't. If you're not
Eventually,
watching it.
eventually, somebody got syphilis from consensual sex. Eventually, it probably went through
In
a
the
couple people
1500s,
first.
I'm not even sure.
I mean, maybe.
If it wasn't enough to convince you that he's an awful person, Spanish settlers, he didn't like them either. So it extended even to the white people, where he also had a tendency to sell their children into sex slavery when they weren't getting him enough gold by the people that they were enslaving. So, he was all about that sex slavery.
He just loved gold.
He did.
Gold.
He was actually arrested and brought up on charges for his actions specifically in Hispaniola. He would confess that, yeah, I'm a douche nozzle. He'd be stripped of all of his ranks, all of his positions, all of his titles, but then given a free pass, not sentenced to jail, and sent back on a fourth voyage, which Spain funded for him.
I wonder why Spain would fund that for them. I wonder what they're getting in return.
I'm guessing gold and syphilis.
I thought all that gold was just for his own personal use, though. Now he's going to give it back to the mother country, and they're going to just forgive him of all of his crimes, but strip him of his title.
He only got 10% of any valuable things that came out of the New World. He was
no
10% was his contract.
No wonder.
He was all about raping it because he wanted to bump those numbers up.
Well, no wonder he was mad when people didn't meet quotas.
Right?
Like, 10% doesn't go a long way unless you're talking about a country's worth of gold. Then 10% is probably a lot.
This is the guy we have a national holiday about in the United States for some reason. He never set foot.
People get work off for him.
Yeah, I got work off because I work for the state of Indiana.
I mean, and now we're trying to do this Indigenous Peoples Day on the same day.
It's Christopher Columbus Day / Indigenous People Day, which is even more insulting to the Indigenous people that he literally raped and killed.
Yeah. Like, what? How is this still a holiday? How has this holiday survived for so long? It's insane. Anyway.
Now he goes off against Alexander the Great, pure definition of white privilege, because he was literally handed an entire kingdom by his father. And so when he went to conquer Greece, most of that was already done before he got into power. And what wasn't done, well, Greece was a war-torn, civil war-ridden area, and he just kind of walked in and said, "It's mine now," and they went, "Oh, okay."
Yeah, that's how you do it, Tommy. Like, work smarter, not harder. Why are you ragging on him for this?
Well, I like to take people down a notch or two from their accomplishments.
He named himself Alexander the Great. I don't think you're going to take him down any pegs.
No, because part of his whole "I'm the greatest" is that he demanded all of his subjects treat him like a god and give him the gifts of the god.
He thought he was a god.
He thought he was a god.
And convinced himself.
Yeah, and when they wouldn't treat him like a god, he had a habit of, wiping out your entire religion. And by wiping out your entire religion, I mean literally killing everyone who followed your religion unless they believed in him. He did that to the whole the original, historic religion in Israel. Yeah, he
is gone now.
Gone now because I'm sorry, not Israel, Iran. I did a Donald Trump guffaw and mixed up my Middle Eastern countries.
I'm gonna know.
The Iranians is who he killed off in their entirety. After a drunken night of debauchery, he razed Persepolis, which was the capital of Persia, I believe, because his buddies goaded him into doing it. They're like, "Are you just going to let them talk smack about you?" And he's like, "No, man, no. So this shit's not going to stand. I'm going to burn it to the fucking ground entire city."
Do you think he remembered the next morning that he did that? Oh, or did he wake up and he's like, "Guys, hey, you want to hit up that Sweet Pita place in Persephone?" And they're like, you burned it to the ground. You remember that, right? What? You don't. I thought that was a dream. Oh, shit.
You don't see that big cloud of... Oh, man. He would also engage in murder by his own hand, where he liked to kill off rivals. In one instance, he killed 12 in one sitting, and then discovered what necrophilia was all about.
Oh.
So...
You reckon?
Yep.
Now, I don't know. Maybe this isn't the place for this conversation, but do you think that somebody who is delving into necrophilia for the first time, because he didn't have a chance to explore it on Pornhub or whatever, right? So he's delving
Pornhub
into
doesn't have necrophilia, but
I don't know, but you know what I'm talking, like, whatever. Do you think that just the excitement of killing somebody got him so aroused that he had to relieve himself? Or was it the dead people that then he's like, "Oh, you know what? I kind of like that," and then he got worked up and the chain of events is interesting to me.
I'm thinking it's probably as he's killing him, he got excited.
Yeah,
would be my guess, because there was that serial killer in the last episode who got all excited and rage personified, and
Well, but then he would also just
himself.
return later.
Yeah.
And do it again.
Shh. Facts, Johnny. Why do you have to bring facts into it?
I try not to usually.
This one's easy. Christopher Columbus is moving on. He's a piece of shit.
Good try, Alexander the Great. You did some awful things, but really, you were just a rich kid that got some power.
Yeah,
and did what rich kids do.
You were just any other normal Macedonian doing the Macedonian thing.
Yeah, well, and that's the other thing. The entire world at that time was just absolute shit. If it wasn't him doing it, it would have been somebody else.
Yeah.
Like Columbus is like, he's like, I'm gonna put a name out for myself. I'm not gonna just come and be like, oh yeah, turns out I landed this place. Nice people, lots of resources and stuff. They said maybe we could set up some trade or something.
They brought us food on the beaches and stuff.
Yeah, it was amazing.
They were super nice.
No, it was nice people, lots of resources. We're gonna kill them and take them.
Yeah.
So Columbus wins.
Our final round for the Western brackets here is we've got our first brown person, Che Guevara, who's that oh-so-fashionable person on T-shirts that college kids like to wear.
Looks dope on those shirts, yeah.
Versus 5th Roman Emperor Nero. So,
Wayback Machine again.
Wayback Machine again. We'll start off with Guevara. He was an Argentinian Marxist revolutionary and guerrilla leader who loved his communism so much and loved revolution so much that we put his face on a T-shirt and sell in stores to college kids that like to be countercultural.
Tom, he's about like freedom and the little man and the damn the government and that, right? Like he's a freedom fighter.
And by little man and freedom fighter, as long as you believe everything that he believes
naturally
and are not gay.
Oh.
Then yeah, sure.
Yeah.
He was a fan of executing anyone that betrayed him, and in one instance, or was gay, because yes, we'll get there, Johnny. You're jumping the gun a little bit. He was quoted in his own memoir, like in his own journals and diaries, was quoted during a confrontation that he had with one of his political adversaries, Utimo. Said that the situation was uncomfortable for the people and for Utimo. So I ended the problem by giving him a shot with a .32 pistol on the left side of the brain with the excess orifice on the right temporal. He gasped a little while and was dead.
What?
That's a fucking serial killer.
That didn't need to be written that way. I shot him in the head and he died. Unless you're a psychopath and then I put it on his left temporal and then it went in and then it went through his brain and skull and shattered out the other side and then he gasped and died. All right, he's not great. That's not just.
And it was like the way he's also describing it is like we came to a disagreement and it was uncomfortable, everybody, so I made it less uncomfortable by shooting a guy in the head.
I don't think that relieves tension in a room. Typically.
He would take political prisoners and was accountable for hundreds of their executions directly, that is, and by directly in hundreds, I mean 216 to be specific, of just walking down the line and...
Holy shit.
216 counts of these. It was uncomfortable, so I made it a little less uncomfortable.
Man, I don't think that made it less uncomfortable.
In Cuba, he would kill or order the deaths of anyone even suspected of supporting Batista, who was the ruler of Cuba. When he took control of Cuba, he immediately abandoned the whole I'm in it for the little peasants and set up an industrial base of really proper working conditions with fair wages.
So it turned into, oh, wait, I can make money from this.
And that's exactly what it was, is, oh, wait, I can make money from this. And he is responsible for that because he was the second in command underneath what the hell? Why did I forget his name? He's the bad guy in Cuba that we all hate as Americans.
Castro?
Why did I forget his... Castro, that's the one. He was second underneath Castro, but Castro had no, leadership experience and had no way of... Yeah, I know, I'm so proud of you. Had no leadership experience and no, experience, running anything, so...
Yeah.
Guevara was the only educated man amongst them. So he decided to do it himself.
I can tell you how to make money.
For that first little bit. He would set up concentration camps and would model them after the Nazis' concentration camps.
Well, they did do it best.
They did do it best.
If you're gonna pick a template.
And he literally had "Work will set you free" above the entrance.
I don't
Just like in
recognize that in
Auschwitz.
English. I don't.
The Arbeit macht frei.
Oh, I've heard that before.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, there you go. Although that was quickly changed to "Work will make you a man," and that
Were
was
all the
done when
women
he
in the
started.
camp like, wait, what the
Well,
fuck? No, I don't want that.
no, that was done when he started throwing gay people into said concentration camps. And there is a rumor, although it's never been confirmed, there is a rumor that he was struggling with his own sexual orientation, so to speak.
I mean, anybody
Specifically
that,
when he went on a motorcycle trip across Argentina with his best buddy.
I mean, haven't we learned from, I don't know, the countless examples that people who are loudly, staunchly have hatred towards homosexuals often have their own homosexual tendency and are really just self-hating and then projecting and yeah, maybe a little bit of that going on.
This may have been one of them. Yeah. He's up against Nero, who, like I said before, was the 5th emperor of Rome from 54 to 68, which is always fun to go that far back where 54 is a real date.
Yeah, 1954, 1854?
No, just 54.
17? No, just
0054.
Just the old 54.
His character was set early when he had his younger stepbrother murdered for fear that his stepbrother would claim the throne. And this all happens because him and his stepbrother are both named co-heirs. When his stepfather dies of natural causes, wink.
Yeah. He naturally got hit in the head with a rock.
Yeah, his younger half brother wasn't old enough to take the throne, so he was always afraid that, like, well, now I know what it's like to rule the whole kingdom of Rome. I don't want to share that
part of a kingdom.
So he
real quick,
poisoned his brother.
How much of what we're about to learn is real versus what type of records were kept? How do we know anything about him, I guess?
So there are some really good detailed records that are kept. Like Rome was meticulous about its records.
Yeah, this was kind of. I mean, well, I guess.
So you do have, but Rome is also, you gotta take some stuff with a grain of salt because you have the people's accounts during Nero's reign, which loved Nero, and you have the elite's account of Nero's reign who didn't love Nero. So there are some conflicting stories and some conflicting evidence. The story of him killing his brother, there's some conflicting evidence there.
You have side A, you have side B, the truth's in the middle. Is that basically?
Yes, but he did kill his mother. And we know he killed his mother because he said he killed his mother.
Was she asking
his
for
mother
it?
Is the one, well, his mother was the one who got him into power. Like, so her manipulation and sleeping around and doing her fun thing got him into the position to be the Roman emperor. And then she didn't want to take a back seat once he was Roman emperor, and he didn't like this. So he built her a boat that was was built to sink, sent her out, it sunk, she didn't die, she swam back to shore, and when she made it on shore, he told his guards, go ahead and stab her to death. He then went in public and said, oh no, she killed herself. It was suicide.
Oh,
she stabbed herself 33 times in the back.
It should have just gone with she drowned, it just not in the water, on her own blood. Because of all the stabbings.
Yeah. He then would go on to be rumored to start the Great Fire of Rome in 64, to clear land and to expand it for his palace. And while this was all going along, he was playing the fiddle the entire time the city burned.
Not
now,
really.
This is a Roman... Not really, though. Okay. This is the Roman elite's account. Really, in reality, he was not in Rome at the time that it caught fire.
So
the reason why this...
This was some Roman artist just being like, I'm going to paint this a pretty picture.
A pretty picture,
of,
yeah. Well, not an artist, because Rome didn't like its artists. Like, the artists were peasants. So so this is like a Roman elite. This is a congressman, or senator of their day that was writing this account. And what really happened is that he ran back to Rome while it was on fire and led efforts to rebuild Rome after it burned, including expanding his palace and building like a 100-foot statue of himself. So,
well, I mean,
that's where the rumor comes from.
Yeah, but Tommy, if you have your house burned down, they value that at a certain amount, and the insurance company comes in and they just give you a big old fat check. Now, maybe his palace wasn't so good, and then like the property value went up, and he got a pretty nice payout. And so, what's he gonna do with the extra money? Not spend, give it back to the insurance company?
Yeah, or marry his stepsister, which he did.
Oh, well,
So there's that.
I mean, but really, a stepsister.
Yay!
That's like
That's just Pornhub.
it's not
That's just
even
Pornhub's dream.
it's not even blood. Like
Yeah, it's only a little incest. Although there is a lot of rumors and speculation that he was stupping his mom too.
well, you know, when in
So
Rome.
when in Rome,
Who was it back then?
he did. This is where the bad thing from the whole burning of Rome happened. So he did do that. He did rebuild his palace bigger. He did build a statue of himself quite large. The Roman elite didn't like that, started these rumors that he started the fire himself. So to disprove that he started the fire himself, he hunted down this little sect of the Jews called Christians and forced them to confess to the crime of burning the city down, and then systematically exterminated them. And by exterminate, I mean he had fun games like throw them in a pit and let live animals eat them. So, just gladiator games.
So really, all he was doing was trying to prevent, I don't know, all of the holy wars of the future. He just didn't get around to getting rid of all the Christians.
Yeah, but he gained some points back when part of what he did to kill them was light them on fire to illuminate his palace during his parties. So,
like human lanterns,
like
they just be sitting next to a pillar on fire to provide light.
Yep.
Dude,
it's not a very efficient lantern.
Okay, what year did human beings develop the sense of smell? Because, my God,
would have been a little pungent.
Most of history probably smelled awful, but a burning human flesh? Yeah. There's no way that doesn't just smell horrific.
He would then go on to kill his stepsister after, he knocks up his mistress and, divorces her, but the Roman elites don't really like that, so he kills his stepsister wife.
I love
and by
that.
Kills, I mean has her stabbed and then she committed suicide again.
Yeah, I love that throughout history it's divorce is such a terrible thing. You want to get out of it, you just kill the person instead.
Well, and the sad thing is that still happens. Like, it still happens all the time now in today's society.
Yeah, we really should have never added that whole "till death do us part" thing in it.
Yeah, it does make things a little awkward, doesn't it?
Yeah. Well, and then like Che Guevara, you just shoot somebody when things get awkward, so makes sense.
He then would go on to have a habit of committing bloody purges in Roman elite. So if you were the elites that didn't like him anyways, he'd just go off and kill you.
Well, that's how you maintain power.
That is how he maintains
power.
Kill
people who dissent against you.
And by kill, I mean he forced 23 conspirators to commit suicide by stabbing themselves 30 times. Yeah,
man,
right?
Can you imagine how hard it would be to stab yourself 30 times?
Well...
like you'd have to really have some no quit mentality to just
He would bring back the treason trials, which are basically just kangaroo courts where if he didn't like you, he'd put you on trial.
She's a witch
with a jury that's gonna it's the witch trials, and he'd kill you that way. And then this is my fun fact for him. This is why he's my favorite bad person. And why I think he's going to go deep, or he's going to get my vote to go deep.
I don't know. He's got Columbus in the next round.
He does have Columbus next
round. If he goes on, we got
to
talk about Che, too.
Well, Che was an awful human being.
Yeah, right. But that's why he's in the brag.
But Che didn't do this. So
okay.
Nero would kick his new wife to death while she was pregnant. That's bad enough.
Wait, why?
Kicking a pregnant woman to death. He just got into an argument, snapped, and kicked her to death.
Barefoot or in sandals, likely too. Like, how do you kick
this isn't like steel toe with
your soft feet?
Well, with lots of
a lot of kicking,
have at it.
A lot of that no quit attitude.
After she was dead, he felt bad about it, so he had her stuffed and put on display in his palace.
Like, just straight up taxidermied.
Straight up taxidermied.
I know we're picturing just a human being statue. I'm guessing taxidermy wasn't like
Wasn't that the same standard as what it is now? Yeah.
Yeah, plastic surgery type look that we're getting. Like this was probably horrific. Seeing
Well,
this
she
body.
didn't. She didn't last there that long because he found a boy in the village that looked just like her, had him castrated, forced him to wear her clothes, then married him, and then while in public made everybody around them pretend that this was still her. Like she didn't get murdered by me by kicking her to death. This is just as my wife, regardless of the fact that she still looks like a boy now. And then he would openly fondle his new captive in public.
So no, he snapped and went insane.
Yeah,
like
he straight up snapped and went insane.
Like that's just he had a moment, something happened, and just boom, he's insane now.
Yeah,
because that's not. I mean, it's awful. All of it's terrible, but that's not the behavior of just somebody who's wanting to be bad. That's the behavior of somebody who's lost their damn mind. And I don't know. Yeah. Probably it was while he was kicking his pregnant wife to death
that he snapped, or right before he started kicking the pregnant wife.
That.
Yeah, somewhere in there he snapped.
Yeah.
He was very young. He was only 16 when he did take over the control of the Roman Empire, which was the largest empire, I think, arguably ever in existence. So
I mean, what 16-year-old in power hasn't burned bodies to light up the parties and kicked their mistress to death with their baby inside and killed their stepsister that they married and
then kicked his mistress that he killed his stepsister for to death and stuffed her and found a boy who looked like her and castrated him and married him and fondled what was left of the genitals in open view of everybody. Yeah. Now his first few years of rule in Rome were actually pretty good. He did expand the rights of slaves, which was good. He, for the most part, started ending a lot of the whole gladiator combat things. He did do a lot of tax reform and cut taxes to a lot of the population. So
was the gladiator combat just too violent for him? For the person who threw people into cages with lions and bears and whatever the fuck, and then also kicked his mistress to death.
They weren't people, Johnny. They were Christians. Okay.
Oh, well. Okay.
And that was just a sect of Judaism. So
Right, and just a small following. I mean, what are they gonna ever do?
Right. So for me, I really wanted Che to go on in this round because I'm so sick of looking at because he was an awful human being, and I might have even been one of those people when I was in college, like Che Guevara, but then you learn about him, you go, oh.
Well, you're part of that because that's what the entire culture spouts, and that you it's becoming familiar with something before learning about it. You're familiar with it based on your experience and what people say, and you see him on T-shirts and stuff, and people are like, "Oh, it's a freedom fighter" or whatever the fuck. And then all of a sudden you learn about
all the awful things he did.
Don't like that's not good.
So I did want him to move on farther because of all the awful things he did, but then I learned about Nero curb stomping his pregnant wife to death and then stuffing her, and then kidnapping a boy and force marrying that boy.
Well, and the burning people, like having people on fire.
I'm not even upset about that. That's just being a Roman emperor. That shit's just being a Roman emperor.
Well, it seems to me like that's being a bad party host. It's being a bad host. Like they don't like that. Like what you ran out of your torches. Like what the? Why do you have to burn people? Like I'm trying to enjoy my wine over here, and 20 feet away from you, your next door neighbor's burning on the ground because he said something that Nero didn't like. Like, what the fuck is that?
Yeah. Well, not even something Nero didn't like, because the people were talking bad about Nero building a huge-ass statue of himself, so he had to have somebody to blame for the fire that caused him to build a statue of himself.
That enabled him because he got the insurance payout.
Insurance money. Yes. Yep.
State Farm had his back.
State Farm had my back. I got a new roof because of State Farm.
Hey,
Thank you, State Farm.
Look at that.
I think we have State Farm, or do we have Allstate? I don't know.
Yeah, you're in good hands.
Bought it. So
either way.
One way, we're in good hands, right? So join us next.
Anyway,
we're moving Nero, right?
Nero.
Nero's moving on. Nero moves on.
I think so for all the reasons we discussed. Although Che killed more people directly. I think.
Probably, yeah,
But
probably. Although
to
it's
be
hard to tell.
fair, it was way more. It was way easier and much more
He
efficient.
never
He didn't have to curb stomp
castrated a
somebody.
little boy and marry him because he looked like his dead wife.
He also, yeah, and he never burned people for light. Okay, so Nero moves on. So
Oh, and
next,
I forgot stuff it. He also stuffed his dead wife. We can't.
oh right, yeah.
We keep
Oh,
glossing over that
that's
part too.
right. Yeah, the human taxidermy subject, the person
Yeah.
after, which also he stomped her to death. Like her skin, she's gonna be bruised up. She's gonna be nasty.
She's not. Yeah. Yeah.
And
She's not
now,
gonna be very good looking.
oh
Though.
my god. All right, so next week we're gonna move in to the East
East
but,
bracket, which is
for the West. Our let's do our
rundown.
Elite Eight or whatever. We're gonna have Hitler versus Leopold II, and we're going to have Columbus versus Nero.
Which is going to be a tough. Oh god, that's going to be a tough one.
I don't think it'll be that tough. We'll figure it out.
And then we're moving. Well, yeah, we're moving on, and on the East side, we're gonna. Spoiler alert! I'm pretty sure the East is gonna win and beat out the West because
man, it's stacked.
You've got Genghis Khan and
Vlad the Impaler,
Stalin, Vlad the Impaler,
Pol Pot,
like
Attila the Hun. Like, good God, it's
apparently if you're.
To be fair, they've had more time. They've been around.
They did
longer.
have more time. Yes, they have. Yes, yeah.
And so
we'll join us next week when we go down that journey.
All right, that's it for this week in Historic Hindsight. Thanks for listening. Be sure to subscribe, rate, and review, and join us next week when we find out who the worst person in the East is.